You talk about it as if it was just, this thing happened, this mania struck society. Kendi happened to become identified as, this iconic thing, and so all of this largesse fell on him. It wasn't his fault. He took it. Anybody would have taken it. Don't be mad at him. And I'm saying he was venal. And moreover, that these stupid ideas have infected the minds of so many people. His books, the U.S. Army was buying his books and sending it out to people because that was the way in which you developed sensitivity on the racial question. It's poisonous. So stupidity on steroids in the name of my people, I object.
Glenn, if I may, just like you said.
You're going to anyway, but I'll give you my permission.
Honesty is meant in friendship. You're not applying your full mental capacities to understanding a Kendi. And what I mean by that, you're not penetrating him, because I think you kind of don't want to, but think of it. He's this person who has taken on this post-Stokely Carmichael Black ideology. And he finds it congenial, partly because there is a visceral pleasure to thinking in these ways. But that ideology, fist up in the air, he'd be wearing a dashiki if it were 45 years ago or more. Big surprise, that perspective is not great on historical perspective, other than that there was racism everywhere, i.e. stamped from the beginning, his first book. That's the historical perspective. But for him to imagine what it would be like to be a Frederick Douglass within the different parameters of that time, different sense of what Black issues were, what was urgent, for him to imagine what W.E.B. Du Bois was growing up in Great Barrington, going to Europe, what Blackness was at that time, big surprise. He doesn't excel at thinking in those ways. And so to him, it's as if this Victorian man with a cane, is sitting at a dinner table with Kendi, saying the sorts of things Du Bois would say about how some Philadelphia Negroes are lazy, etc. Kendi can only understand that on the terms of somebody sitting there and saying it in 1975. He doesn't go further back in that way. He's not that kind of historian. I can forgive him.
He's not any kind of historian.
I can forgive him that. He's doing his best, and he wasn't around real historians very much. I cannot hate him for that.
Okay, good. You forgive him. I don't forgive him. Okay, so we disagree about forgiving him, but what I want to talk about is the fraud that was perpetrated.
What fraud? By him.
The idea. I said the fraud that was perpetrated, not just by him. He's just a cog in the whole frigging machine. Yes. Post George Floyd, universities across this country committed themselves to anti-racist frenzies of one sort or another, from faculty hiring to curriculum to administration over their student bodies and so forth, and to their public-facing activities of their top administrative leadership and so on. To the philanthropists, the money that was raised, the things that were done in response in a moment of racial reckoning. He's an epitome. He epitomizes something. This is not about him personally. That you would waste your time defending him befuddles me. This is about corruption of essential institutions like the one you work for at the New York Times, about which I know you cannot speak. Corruption of museums, of orchestras. We've entertained people on this program who have spoken to us about that deep corruption of the theater and of the arts. Corruption of the sciences, where they have shut down STEM. Science is racist because Blacks are not performing as well as they are on the basketball court in the physics laboratory. Corruption of which Ibram X. Kendi is a poster child. That's what I'm pissed off about.
We are pissed off about the same thing and to the same extent. But it's white people who should know better who have put his face on all of this stuff. So basically, here he is, somebody who thinks that all of this is a good thing. There are many, many people like him. He happened to be the one who got caught like the deer in the headlights because he had written a couple of books right before 2020 that had gotten around somewhat. You and I have met many people of the Kendi view. Until he started ragging on me, I used to think I feel kind of sorry. because he's caught up
Okay.
in something where he can't quite handle it, and it must be hard on some nights for him. Now, frankly, I don't have much pity if we're going to talk about the personal aspect, but that's less important. Generally, that face on all of this stuff that the army is pretending to believe, and physics that doesn't require hard math, and racist music theory, and silly stuff going on in the theater, and stuff going on in classical music, all of this makes me physically sick as well. But it's not as if Ibram Kendi got up and started pressing all these buttons and having this effect. He was fostered in order to do that by people play acting about racism. Yes, that disgusts me utterly. It's really been a shame. And if by chance the downfall of that center has a domino effect and it encourages people to maybe reconsider the content of his books, although I don't see why it would. I don't see any grand implosion. I don't see why things are going to change at all. People still are going to read the books and think this is the way it should be. It's because of people buying hundreds of copies of that book and spreading it around their institutions. Those are the people who ought to be ashamed of themselves, not that poor guy who just got swept up